Unit 5. Recording 2. Mia.
Well, it's changed a lot. Goodness, enormously. 30 years ago, I was still at school. I was 10 years old. Life was a lot simpler then. All I had to think about was doing my homework and enjoying my free time with friends. I think life was simpler for everybody then. We didn't have all this technology, and I think the pace of life was slower. At work, when someone sent a letter, it could take a week or two even before they would get a reply. Nowadays, people email and they expect an instant response. On the same day or within an hour or two. That puts a lot of pressure on people. We say that technology has saved us time, but it just speeds things up and we're expected to do so much more. It's non-stop. We have mobile phones and Blackberries, iPhones, so we don't just turn off and relax.
Tom.
That's an interesting question. It's changed a lot. I live in Beijing, so there has been a huge advancement of technology and huge growth. There are more people with more money. There has been an economic explosion here, so the city has grown. All the offices and high-rise buildings, lots of those weren't here 30 years ago. And it's very multicultural nowadays. People from all over the world live in Beijing. People came from everywhere to see if they could get rich, and many of them did get rich. They made millions. I think in a lot of places out in the countryside, things haven't changed that much. Life is quite similar to how it was before for farmers and their families. I suppose they have more technology now. They have mobile phones and televisions and the internet, so they know a lot more about the wider world and what is going on. 30 years ago, they just had a radio and it was difficult to find out information. That's much easier now.
Owen.
Oh, well, both, probably. The world is getting better in many ways. I think if we look at living standards across the world, obviously there are still millions of people living in terrible poverty, but I think the situation is getting better. People have better access to food and medicines and education. So these are all things which are improving. Medicine is improving, so people live longer, and we can fight infectious diseases. People's lives have improved because of technology, so life is easier now than it was before. A lot of manual work is done by machines. But in some ways, the world is getting worse. War, for example, is a bigger problem all the time. There are more and more wars, which is surprising. And weapons are becoming even more dangerous. I think the environment is definitely suffering. So we are polluting more than we used to because of all the industrialisation. And I think also, socially, things are getting worse, because people are less social now than before. They spend more time on their own, with computers and computer games, and less time talking to others, working together. And I think that is a great shame, and a problem for the future too.